Pittsburgh Steelers fans, what's going on? This is Jeff Hartman, co-editor of BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. And if you're watching live on YouTube or live on Facebook, you might be saying, wait a second. There's only 3 guys at the Steelers preview. I only see 2. I'm joined by Bryan Anthony Davis, our podcast producer. No Dave Schofield, not yet anyways. He might join us in a little bit. It's his son's birthday. He's out in Western Maryland on a lake somewhere. But Bryan, how are you this evening?
Actually, I don't think he's going to join us at all because we got a late message saying that he would be not coming on tonight. So yeah, he is out on a lake. That's cool. Spending time with your family is paramount, so do that. The only thing is I've got this bad vision of a Speedo being involved with one Dave Schofield, and that frightens me. So there you go. It's now in your head because it's now in mine.
For those that have listened to our podcast for a really long time, and I'm not talking about, I started listening in 2020. This, myself and Bryan, goes way back. I mean, this is back in the Blog Talk Radio days. It's kind of old school. It kind of brings back some old school vibes, doesn't it, Bryan?
Yeah, I think we're talking 2015 or 16.
Jeez.
Actually,
we're dating ourselves.
And so we had a lot of fun, and we were doing this, and we were doing the preview together before Dave came in.
Yeah. And
then Dave joined the preview, and man, we haven't looked back. So it's been great to have Dave as a part of it, but it's nice to go old school. I'm feeling it.
It's nothing against Dave, by the way. This is not a crack on Dave. We're comfortable doing a show together. We'll be fine. All right. So I want to tell a little story here to get us started. And this is going to lead into our first topic. So I had a softball game tonight. Dave plays in the same softball league. We don't play each other's teams. We're in different divisions. Anyways, that's neither here nor there. There is a gentleman on another team that we both know who actually follows Behind the Steel Curtain. He's a member. He has his own name on the website. He comments on articles all the time. And so I was on first base and he plays first base. And I said, hey, what do you think about the Steelers this year? And he said, to be completely honest with you, Jeff, I could be talked into one way or the other. And I started laughing, like, what do you mean? He said, I could be talked into them being really good. And I could also be talked into them being absolutely lousy. And I felt like that had some merit, but my question for you, Bryan, to start the show off was, okay, what are your thoughts? And here we are, the Steelers just wrapped up the second week of their third phase of OTAs. We've already been through free agency. The draft is in the rearview mirror. How do you feel about this team right now?
I feel pretty comfortable with this team because I keep going back to one phrase during the press conference before the NFL draft in 2021. And it was Kevin Colbert and Mike Tomlin. And Kevin Colbert said this: we have the roster to play a game tonight if we need to. So that means going into the draft that they were looking at a few positions that they were going to hone. But if they could go and play a game without Najee Harris, without Freiermuth or Green or any of those guys, they were comfortable in doing so. And the way they built this team, I am, a lot of people aren't thinking it lately, but I'm thinking that I'm an optimist. And I'm really optimistic about the Steelers and this team because I like the way that they've put everything together. I look at the end of 2020 and that playoff game and where they were and what was going on. And now I look at the pieces that they have here now and the pieces that they don't have here now. And I'm still pretty comfortable with the pieces that they have here now. And here's the thing. The reason being is you can't count Bud Dupree in being gone if he wasn't on that team in the playoffs. He was already gone. So they're actually improved from the wild card game. And with the additions of their draft picks, I feel that they're improved the whole way around, that they're better off than they were on January 9th of 2021.
You kind of went into my follow-up there, and that's the number one question that a lot of fans are asking. And I honestly, when I hear these narratives coming from NFL Network or ESPN or CBS Sports, any other outlet that does things like predictions and things like, I understand that the Steelers have on paper the toughest schedule of any team, and that's all based off of 2020 win-loss percentage. So, and Dave talked about that in his Stat Geek. Make sure you check that out. Great episode, by the way. It's only on our audio platform. But I asked myself, is this team better? And if people were saying they're going to be awful, this team's not that different than the team that started out 11-0, won 12 games. And yes, they failed down the stretch, but what is the one thing, if you could pinpoint something, Bryan, that gives you calm and says this team's going to be pretty good, even if everyone else is saying they're going to be awful?
The one thing, I mean, there's so many things, Jeff, but if I had to say the one thing, it's Matt Canada and a scheme. Because I think that was really what was hindering everything, the scheme. I think the offensive line gets better in the scheme, and I think adding Najee Harris and the way that the running backs are going to be used, even if it wasn't Najee Harris, I think Canada makes all the difference in the world. Man, he might be fool's gold. I might be drinking the Canadian Kool-Aid. If that is
that Canadian dry? Is that just Canadian dry?
Well, how about Michael Beck?
Yeah, seriously. There's Canucks. But no, and to be honest with you, so I agree 100%. I'm going to go a different route as to why I think the Steelers are going to be okay. And this would be the same person that some would point to and say why they're going to be awful. BTR. Benjamin Todd Roethlisberger. He is still the straw which stirs the drink. And they're going to go as he goes. I really do think that the Steelers are going to be not only more balanced with Matt Canada, which ties into your topic that you just mentioned, but also I just think that everyone is bashing him after the way that things went down in the playoff game and down the stretch. We know after 17 years that Ben Roethlisberger plays well when he has a chip on his shoulder. And I feel like he has a giant chip on his shoulder. But Bryan, how confident are you in BTR in 2021? Do you think it's the end of the rope, end of the road, whatever you want to call it? Or do you think that he still has a lot of good football left?
BTR, you can't spell better without BTR. So
I always want to say BTO, like we're talking about Bachman Turner Overdrive or something like that. But now BTR. Anyway.
I always laugh because I think of the group that had some guys from Genesis and Yes. They had one big song in 1986 called "When the Heart Rules the Mind." They also had another one called "The Hunter," but they were called GTR. So when I think of that, I'm thinking GTR, BTR, but BTO probably works better. So no matter what it is, now I'm confident in Ben Roethlisberger. Man, he's looking swout right now. Man, he's looking good. I think he's on a mission because, hey, look, the scapegoat's gone. And we've talked about this before in the show, and I just talked about him earlier. Randy Fichtner is not there. You cannot blame anybody else at this point. And I don't think Ben is here in 2021 to play the blame game. I think he's looking for redemption in his mind, and he's looking to prove. So I really feel that he's going to be fine. I just saw Bert mentioned in the live chat that when I mentioned Matt Canada, he mentioned that Ben might hinder it. I don't really think so, because one thing that Matt Canada is really good at is taking the personnel that he has and developing his playbook and his scheme around those players. So he's going to be able to take his scheme and craft it to what works for Ben Roethlisberger. And I really think that could be done. Last year, Ben Roethlisberger's play was, 2 seconds and the ball's out. He set records for his career. And Al Michaels and Chris Collinsworth talked about this all the time last year when they were showing the numbers, how long it takes for the ball to get out of his hands. He was doing that based on the scheme and the cards that he was being dealt last year. If he doesn't have to do that, and he won't, because he has a running game and he has a better scheme that he can craft his game around too. So I think it's going to be a really good union between BTR and Matt Canada, the MC. That's another one. MC, Matt Canada.
There you go.
So,
MCOC.
there we go. But, so I trust Ben. I really trust him, because he's not coming back this year with everybody that was like bringing him down and saying he's done. You mentioned the chip. Yeah, the chip's there. I feel good about him.
All right, so to kind of finish up this story in this segment, so I'm actually talking to this gentleman after the game, and we're talking about the Steelers, and he said, I'm curious about this offense with Matt Canada. He said, I feel like we got a taste of it last season. The first 6 games or so, they were doing a lot of pre-snap movement, a lot of motion, and then I stopped him and said, and then it stopped. And he said, exactly. And I said, but the $1 million question is, why did it stop? Was it Randy Fichtner who said, no, we're throwing this out the window, we're doing it my way? Or was it Benjamin Todd Roethlisberger that said, I'm not doing this anymore? It worked. It worked. Statistics show that they were I want to say they were around 10th in the NFL in rushing in the early going of the season. They were running the ball well. A lot of pre-snap movement. Bryan, and we're just speculating here. We have no inside information, but in your own speculation, why in the world, when it was working, did the Steelers stop?
Man, that is a $1 trillion question. I really don't know where to start, but I want to just jump on the bandwagon on something that you said. And it's this: the first 3 games of the season, the Steelers had 100-yard rushers. They were the only team in the league to have a 100-yard rusher the first 3 weeks of the season. Did that continue? No, it did not. So I'm going to have to say that was working for Ben. Ben was still throwing it up top, man. Remember the bomb to Claypool? I mean, he was airing it out. So makes me think that maybe it wasn't Ben that stopped it, and it could be Randy. I mean, it's easy to throw him under the bus right now because it sounds right. I mean, he's like, no, I mean, we've got this this is just in my mind, in my crazy black and gold mind. This is me saying, if I'm Randy, maybe he's saying, okay, you've got this new flavor of the month coming in. They're talking about all the motions and all the stuff. It's worked before with what I've had. We're going my way. Maybe we could go here and there, but they're going to figure it out. So let's just do this. I might be wrong.
Well, I think, not to reflect too much on the past, I think if fans are wondering what's it going to look like this year, it's not going to have the same impact. For instance, it's not going to go down the same way as it did in 2020. Why? Randy Fichtner's gone, and there's no way that the Steelers went to Matt Canada and said, we want you to be our offensive coordinator, but we don't want you to run our system, your system. We want you to just do what Ben wants to do. There's no way he agrees to that. Heck, the Miami Dolphins wanted to interview him for their offensive coordinator job. He had suitors. It's not like he was someone that no one was interested. And then on the flip side of that, there's no way that Ben signs up to come back in 2021, knowing that Matt Canada is going to be the offensive coordinator and knowing what Matt Canada likes to do. This would be a completely different story if Matt Canada didn't spend 2020 as the quarterback's coach and have some influence in the play calling or maybe the game planning, however you want to put it, last season. I think that this is a situation where we should at least get to see I'm not going to say 100% pure Matt Canada offense, because maybe there are some things that, if you read Kevin Smith's articles, Jeffrey Benedict's articles that we run on BehindTheSteelCurtain.com, and they highlight very well in video form and GIF form that Ben's not capable of some of the RPOs that style of offense runs, but he is capable of reading defenses. He is capable of having a lot of motion and pre-snap reads. And you know what he is capable of? He is capable of getting under center. He is capable of running play action. I think we're going to see a lot of that. I think that it's going to be different. I think that if the Steelers are going to do damage this season, they have to take advantage of the first 6 games. I was doing my Let's Ride live on the Locker Room app on Tuesday night, and we broke down looked at the schedule. I said, they're not 4-2 in the first 6 going into the bye week. I feel like that's a problem. And when you think about early in the season, this offense is going to be unique. It's going to be something no one's ever planned for. So, I mean, Bryan, do you think it's going to be something that defenses can catch up with, or do you think this is something where they're going to keep people guessing for the whole season?
You can always catch up with something. We have seen that with batters in baseball and pitchers, and how, all right, we finally adjusted to this guy. We finally know how to play him. They do that in football all the time as well. They can figure it out. But the mark of a brilliant coach is that guy who keeps on adapting, keeps on throwing in those wrinkles, does all those things that, all right, you figure this out. Now let's throw this on. All right, I've got a little magic for you here. Now we're going to throw this into the mix. So there's, one great coach, Coach Gordon Bombay of the 1992 Mighty Ducks. And he's back with Mighty Ducks Game Changers. Awesome season, by the way. I loved it. The first season of it. Fantastic. He kept on throwing those wrinkles in. So if Matt Canada can get some Gordon Bombay going, then boom.
Leave it to you. We're having a serious football conversation, and you bring up Gordon Bombay. The Quack Attack is back, Jack. Are you going to bring up Charlie Conway at this point, or no?
Oh, you know what? They wore the classic jerseys in the last episode. It's great. But hey, that's not what I'm talking about.
Is it worth it? Because I don't have Disney Plus. I was tempted, but I was like, man, I would love to watch that show. But I'm really not. I'm not a Disney guy.
It's actually worth it if you love the series, if you love the movies. And there's another one, a basketball show with John Stamos, which you might be laughing at.
Oh my gosh!
Just trust me. You would thank me when we're done. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the fact that, even though I made you laugh, Jeff, you're thinking about it. You're like, okay, if he can't.
What wrinkles are you talking about? Let's talk this out. Let's compare your theory of the wrinkles added, which makes sense, and then you bring in the hockey team. He was just teaching these kids how to skate. He was teaching Charlie how to take a dive. What other wrinkles are you talking about?
The flying V for one. The alley oop is another one.
But that was two. That was two. You're jumping ahead of yourself.
Yeah, and now you've got the making pancakes, the breakfast in Game Changers. That's the same type of thing. It's what I'm saying is if Matt Canada could keep on, keep some stuff in his back pocket. Don't show it all in week 1 and 2. But so when you catch up to this, all right, boys, flying V.
You completely lost me. I'm only thinking about names of Mighty Ducks, and here's a trivia for you. In Mighty Ducks 2, that's the movie where they are, it's USA, Team USA, and the Ducks are infused with other All-Stars. There is a little Asian kid who's a figure skater. What is his name? Do you know?
Not only do I know Kenny Woo,
I knew you would know it.
An appearance in Game Changers.
No, he doesn't.
Yes,
no, he doesn't.
Yes, he does. I'm a Dean Portman guy.
Kenny Woo.
And the USA is back on top. I saw that movie a million times when I was in college.
Oh my gosh. Whew. Was it Luis Mendoza was the one that couldn't stop?
Yeah. So
same actor that was Benny the Jet Rodriguez in The Sandlot.
Really? I didn't realize. Yeah. He was from Miami, Florida. You had Jolie the Cat Gaffney in goal.
Yes.
That came in and Goldberg in real life. I mean, he went off the rails. I think
real bad.
Yeah, really bad. But then you had. There's only about 4 or 5, and there's Dwayne Robinson, who, how do I know this? He was the lasso guy.
Look at John Trent McFarlane's our Kenny Woo this. Oh my gosh. So if Anthony McFarlane takes a run and just goes 75 yards, we got to go, woo, woo, Kenny Woo.
I didn't think we'd go this far with Gordon Bombay and the Mighty Ducks, but oh man, it's fun.
I love that movie. It was when I was a kid growing up. I loved hockey, and I was okay. Anyways, let's get this train back on the track, shall we? Let's get the trolley moving in the right direction. I like what Garrett says. He says, so we can definitely conclude that Dave's the glue that holds us on.
Not really, because if he was here, he'd be.
Yeah, he would be chiming in for
he'd
sure.
He'd be loving it
for sure. All right. Okay, let's talk about the headline of this episode, which is sleepers. I was thinking about this. We had tossed around some ideas on our Slack channel about what do we want to talk about tonight. And I was like, what about players that might really be a big part of this football team, but aren't really being talked about a lot? We could go a bunch of different ways with this, and you can justify a lot of players. But I would say that someone like Benjamin Todd Roethlisberger, even Najee Harris, people are talking about them. That's not a sleeper. That's not someone that's going to sneak up on you like, wow, where did this guy come from? Never expected this. we have a list. We both have a list, and we're going to go through these players and say who is going to be a sleeper. I just thought of another one. I'm going to put that down there. All right. So, Bryan, no particular order. You want to start on offense or defense?
Let me start on offense.
Okay.
And, look at all these wide receivers that the Steelers have. And we can get into the conversation. Do the Steelers have a true one? I don't care. I'm talking about the talent that they have makes them a one when you combine them all. It does not matter to me. Gone are the days of 14 touchdowns by one dude and dominating Mr. AB. Mr. What did you guys call him? Third and fifth, which I always hated that nickname.
Mr. Third and Fifth, yeah.
Mr. Third and Fifth. Gone are those days. This is a true stable. And in this stable, there's one guy that when he gets his opportunity, he's always comes up huge, but it's sparingly. And it's James Washington, our good friend, Grandpa Strong. So I'm bringing up number 13 when I say that he could be a sleeper that goes to the next level this year, because you know what? His contract will be up this year. And we're talking about how Juju's playing for another contract again. You have a guy in Chase Claypool that is looking to ascend to the top of the mountain, make that big jump from year 1 to year 2. And you have Deontay Johnson that has a lot to prove this year, but he's on the radar. That's the thing. These are guys that aren't really on the radar. And when you think of all those guys, you're really not putting James Washington in the top 3. Now, he has talent. He has tons of talent. He is strong. He's a fighter. He's a clutch guy. But if he comes out strong in the first few weeks of the season and Ben is trusting him, and maybe one of those other guys gets an injury, he could put up a year that would really would rival the rest of the team as far as the rest of the stable's wide receivers. And I would be really comfortable in saying that he's going to get a big contract in free agency if he has a good year. So I'm picking James Washington as one of my top sleepers.
Yeah, sadly, I feel like he's going to need an injury at a wide receiver to get a good opportunity. But the other day on Twitter, you can follow me on Twitter if you see the handle underneath my screen. I just put out a random question. I said, who do you think is going to have more receiving yards, James Washington or Pat Freiermuth? And it was shock. We had almost 800 votes or something like that. And it was like 54% just for James Washington. I thought it was going to be much higher. Like, there were a lot of people that were, because think about it. How often is he going to be on the field unless they run 4 wide receivers out there? And when you have 2 tight ends that can play and you're trying to run the ball more, you're probably not going to do that too much. I think that's the best chance that he has to get a lot of playing time is if someone gets banged up ahead of him. Maybe, I hope no one gets hurt. All right, for me, my first sleeper, if we're going offense first, is none other than Kenny Woo, Anthony McFarland. If you've been following, sorry. I've literally been thinking about that movie since you brought it up. Anyways, if you've been following Behind the Steel Curtains coverage of OTAs, where we take videos from Twitter and we kind of put them all together and we keep updating it, there's been a lot of videos of running backs. Why? Because they run their drills right below the balcony where the media are. And so we've gotten an up close and personal look at a lot of these running backs, whether it's Najee Harris, who obviously is getting a lot of eyeballs on him, but also Anthony McFarland has not missed a workout yet. He is looking really, really fast, and that's never been an issue with him, but he just looks like he's that change of pace back that the Steelers could really, really use. You think about everything that Najee Harris does well. You talk about his vision, his lateral quickness, his burst, his size, his strength. It's all great. There's only one thing he doesn't have: breakaway speed. Anthony McFarland has that breakaway speed. And so I think that this is a guy that last year he did have some opportunities. There were times where he literally tripped over his own 2 feet. I feel like after having that year under his belt, he'll have a preseason, he'll have off-season workouts. And Chase Claypool said Thursday that this is big for him. He didn't have this last season because everything was shut down because of COVID. I think Anthony McFarland is definitely going to be someone to keep an eye out. I think he's going to step it up, as Youngboy24 just said in the live chat. So that's mine. Let's go to the defensive side. Who do you have on defense, Bryan?
So let's go on defense and take a look at a guy that should not be considered a sleeper, especially when you're a first-round draft pick. But let's bring up Terrell Edmunds one more time. And why am I considering him a sleeper? Because obviously the Pittsburgh Steelers do not consider him to be way ahead in their future. When they're looking ahead into their own black and gold crystal ball, they're not feeling that he is the guy that they are going to rely on because they did not tender him a fifth-year option. If they do that, if they give him a fifth-year option, then, they have him in their mix. But right now, it's almost one of those situations where they're saying, all right, Terrell, you're not gone from the team, but you have to make the team all over again. And that's basically the season that Terrell Edmunds is going to have. He is going to have to make this team or make another team because of how he's going to play in this upcoming season. Now, he's definitely, if the Steelers let him go, he's going to sign with the Arizona Cardinals or someone like that, just like Jarvis Jones did. Somebody's going to give an ex-first rounder another chance. I think Terrell Edmunds has plenty of talent that he can be that perfect complement for Minkah Fitzpatrick. So they don't feel enough to go ahead and give him that extra year at the price that they were going to have to do it. So he's really going to step up. I'm thinking that this guy has the intestinal fortitude and the heart to do it. And he's going to do everything he can to cement himself as a Pittsburgh Steeler. And it's got to be this year. There's no other time.
There's a lot on the line for Edmunds. His best ability is his availability. He's always available. I think he's only missed maybe 1 or 2 games in his entire tenure with the Steelers. That's you can't ask for much more outside of just get your hands on the football a little bit more. I think that's what everyone would want. Okay, I'm going to go with a player that no one is talking about, not that I've heard of. And this player, correct me if I'm wrong, Bryan, I don't even think he made the team outright last season, and they brought him back on the practice squad, and he was elevated. That's Antoine Brooks Jr.
Yes.
I think that Antoine Brooks Jr., when you think about what the Steelers like to do in sub packages, and you think about like what Mike Hilton did well in terms of playing the run and playing the line of scrimmage, I could definitely see them having a role for him in 2021. It might not be your typical role, but he's known for being a box safety, a guy that can come downhill, play that run, play in the backfield. I think that the Steelers, we might all be surprised when he gets an entire year under his belt, when you get the preseason this year. Keep an eye on Antoine Brooks Jr. I think that he could actually make the team, be a really big contributor on special teams, but also have a role in the defense. You want to go back to offense now, or do you want to go to stay on defense?
Let's go ahead and stay on defense. And I am going to bring up Shakur Brown, undrafted free agent. I was cleaning off my desk today, and I was looking through all the notes that I made back in March on who the top cornerbacks were. And I had on CBS had Shakur Brown around 11 or 12 as far as a cornerback. He was expected to be a 4th or 5th rounder, and somehow he slipped out of the draft. And that was quite peculiar. I really like what Shakur Brown brings to this team. I think he is better than Justin Lane. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say that wrong?
Lustin Jane.
Okay, thank you. Lustin Jane. Okay, Lustin Jane. Okay, but I think Shakur Brown, as an undrafted free agent, one of those guys is making it. I'm telling you. There's 3 defensive backs, and it's a Shakur Brown, Mark Gilbert is another one, and Lamont Wade. Those are 3. One of those guys is definitely going to make it. I wouldn't be surprised if 2 of those guys make it. I think one of the corners, though, definitely gets in, and I think it's Shakur Brown. And I think he's going to be one of those guys that gets an opportunity to shine, especially with the lack of depth at corner.
Yeah, I don't know much about Shakur Brown. I'm going to be completely honest. I'm looking forward to seeing him. A lot of people are talking about him. A lot of people have high hopes. I'm going to go a different direction, staying on defense, though. That's what you wanted to do. I'm going to go with someone you're very familiar with. It's your own blood. That's your son, Carlos Davis. This stems from a scene, I believe it was in the Baltimore game. at Baltimore. I could be wrong. I think I am wrong. It might have been at Cleveland. It might have been the last game of the season. I'll have to think about that. So the CBS cameras are going along the Steelers sideline, and all of a sudden, you see Isaiah Buggs getting into a shoving match with somebody, and that someone was Carlos Davis, and it was Chris Wormley that had to separate the two. And you know why Isaiah Buggs was getting upset? Because he wasn't playing as much. Carlos Davis was playing more. Carlos Davis was the one that had Buggs inactive at the end of the season. I think that this guy, who no one, when they took him in the 7th round out of Nebraska, no one, people were telling me it was the Baltimore game, so I wasn't going crazy. No one thought that this guy was even going to make the team, let alone was going to make the team and actually contribute. He actually showed some serious promise last year. And like I've said, for all those players, all 3 of the players I've said as sleeper so far have been from the 2020 draft class, the last 3 picks. I feel like when they get a full offseason and a preseason, we're going to see them get even better. I'm going to go with Carlos Davis. So we do have some more. We have 3 more, actually. Each of us have 3 more. We're going to talk about those after the break. So if you're listening on the audio side, head over to part 2. If you're watching live on Facebook or on YouTube, stay tuned. Don't go anywhere because we're not going anywhere. We'll be right back after this break. All right, Pittsburgh Steelers fans, welcome back to the second segment of, I almost said let's ride again, the Steelers preview. I'm sorry. I get so comfortable saying that. I apologize.
That's great because that's what an institution it is becoming. And I'm not joking because, I'm the podcast producer because you're like, you could brag on your own show, but when you have me bragging on the show, how much I love it and how much it's making my job easier, that if you're not, I'm not talking to you, Jeff. If you are not listening to Let's Ride, it is the great show.
I appreciate that. I take a lot of pride in it. I definitely enjoy doing it. If anyone, no one's, because this is a YouTube, Facebook crowd. Some of you all don't listen to our podcast, and that's fine. By all means, I would hope that you would check us out on the podcast side, and not just my show, but Michael Beck on the live mic every Tuesday, Dave on the Stat Geek, and we are going to expand our platform a little bit closer to training camp. We'll give you more details on that coming up. I just dropped my pen. Okay, so we're 3 in on the sleeper picks. You had Terrell Edmonds. Go ahead and name off your 3 again.
So I went with Terrell Edmonds, Shakur Brown, and James Washington.
Okay, and I went with Anthony McFarland, woo woo, Kenny woo, Antoine Brooks Jr., and Carlos Davis. All right, let's go back to offense. Do you have an offensive player ready?
Yeah, I do. Now, you went with 1 running back. I'm going to go with another. And a lot of people are going to roast me for this because they're going to say, this guy's not even going to make the team. But if I'm number 38, Jalen Samuels, don't tell me I'm not making the team. I'm going to do everything I can to make this team. The fact that he has had a lot of great success in college, he was drafted because of his success running in the system and receiving in the system of Matt Canada. So I almost go to Mark Canada. So that was going to be another guy along with Bill Tomlin that you guys could have had a lot of fun with. But what I'm saying about Jalen Samuels, he's not done yet. He doesn't think he's done yet. And he's going to do everything he can to make this team. And the odds are against him right now. So what I'm going to say, Jalen Samuels could be the guy. Not the guy that he's not going to take over for Najee Harris. But you've seen what he can do. You saw what he can do on December 17th, 2018 against the New England Patriots. You saw that great effort. He has the talent to do it with Canada here. I actually think he's going to do something.
Yeah, he clings to that one game pretty hard. Well, I guess we do, not him. So, Brian, just real quick, how many running backs do you see the Steelers keeping?
Let's not count the fullback.
Yeah, so not counting Derek Watt.
I'm thinking 4.
Okay, so who's your 4? We know Najee Harris. We know Anthony McFarland. Do you think Jalen Samuels your 4th is?
I'm not going with Balaj here. I'm still going with Benny Snell.
Okay, all right. That's fine. It's your choice. That's fine. A lot of people in the live chat disagree, but that's fine. That's why we do what we do. We're not supposed to agree all the time. I'm going to stay with offense, and this is going to be a rookie, but I think that this rookie could actually help this team a lot more than people think, and that is Pat Freiermuth. When I put out that poll on Twitter, a lot of people, Pat Freiermuth is just going to be used as a blocker. He might be just more of a red zone target. I think you all are forgetting that this guy was an athletic player at Penn State. He was not just some people are setting him up like he's Matt Spaeth. I'm just going to come in and block, do my thing, and maybe I'll catch a few balls every now and then. To me, that is not Pat Freiermuth's game. Now, I could be wrong. I could be completely wrong, and it wouldn't be the first time, nor will it be the last time. But I think that Freiermuth is going to give this team a dynamic that they haven't had in a long time. He is more of the Heath Miller-like security blanket, or whatever you want to call it, for Benjamin Todd Roethlisberger. Ben has been wanting that player, and it's not Ebron. Ebron's not that kind of player. He's not that kind of tight end. I think that he being Pat Freiermuth is going to have a great year. I don't think he's going to light up the scoreboard or anything like that, but I think that people are going to really be excited about what he brings to this offense going into 2022. He's going to surprise some people, and that's why I have him on the sleeper side. Pat Freiermuth. You're going to hear Muth at Heinz Field when he makes a catch. It'll be fun. I hope he has a great year, and he should. He's a second-round pick. He should be contributing. So, all right, we have two more. Do you have two more, Bryan, or do you want to say something about that?
Yeah, I agree with you on everything that you said except for one thing. Wow. I just don't consider him a sleeper because I think he's expected to come in. But everything you said,
with Ebron there, I mean, that's why I went with him, because I think a lot of people, he is tight end too. He's TE2 on the depth chart. He's behind Ebron. And I think a lot of people believe that Ebron's going to be the one that plays all the time, and then Freiermuth's only going to be used with two tight end sets. I don't see it that way. I think there's going to be chances, there's going to be times where they don't put Ebron on the field and Freiermuth's out there. And I think that might work out to his advantage. So that's nothing against Ebron. It's just that I think Freiermuth is a better blocker. He's more of a two-way tight end, and they haven't had one of those in a while. So there you go.
Let me stay at tight end, and let me stay with the guy that you were just talking about.
Oh, I thought you were
Eric Ebron.
I thought you were going to say Zach Gentry. I was like, please, that's like the...
No, I would go Kevin Rader. I'm going Kevin Rader would be on my radar if before Zach Gentry. But I'm actually going to bring up Eric Ebron. And the reason I'm going to bring him up is because everybody in the live chat, you throw out your Ebron socks. Okay, look. He had 7 drops last year. Most of them were there. A few of them were at the end of the season. I really think that he is going to tighten it up, and he is going to be the superstar that you wanted in year one out of him. I know he had some problems with COVID as well. I think when he and Ben connect, they look pretty good. We have already discounted Eric Ebron, and we have said that he's a bust. I don't see it that way. I thought Eric Ebron, I thought enough of him to let him be one of my 70,000 jerseys. I have an Eric Ebron jersey because I really think he's good. And I really think Muth is going to be huge, but Muth could even help Eric Ebron be that much better. So I'm really expecting him to have a season that you don't expect. When I say you, everybody. So let's throw in Eric Ebron in the mix.
To me, I can't believe you bought a jersey. Ebron just screams of like, I'm only going to be here for a few years and then I'm moving on to the next location. But hey,
I have some problems sometimes. like, ooh, this is different. Some of it's like, I just want to get somebody that nobody else has.
Yeah. Well, mission accomplished. Okay. I'm going to go on the defensive side of the ball here. I have 2 left. I'm going to go with James Pierre. And this is a spoiler on Friday. Maybe you're listening on the audio side. It may have already run. We're doing a training camp battle article. Dave and I have been doing a ton of them. I think we've done like 8 or 9 of them, and we're just kind of picking out, okay, where are the battles? It could have been like the backup tackle between Dan Moore and Joe Haig. It could have been the cornerback situation. And I wanted to revisit the cornerbacks, but really just put Justin Lane versus James Pierre. And Justin Lane is the guy that has the pedigree. He was a draft pick. Has expectations heaped on him. But James Pierre's the one that jumped over him in the depth chart by the end of last season. Doesn't have a huge sample size, doesn't have the pedigree or the experience, but there's something that is very attractive about the way James Pierre plays the cornerback position. And I think that he is a player that, when given the opportunity, I think that James Pierre is a player who can come in and actually really fill a need. And that could be multiple needs, mind you. I think that James Pierre, to make it simple for everyone so they kind of see what I'm talking about, I think he could fill Cam Sutton's old role. So that is, he could play outside. If they need him to be the dime backer, he can. They need him to play the slot, he can do that too. Cam Sutton was a jack of all trades, and if they're going to keep him on the outside and not move him back inside, which we've talked about, then I think James Pierre is the perfect guy to take that role that he used to fill, because he can't. Lane is a guy that I feel like he is predominantly just an outside cornerback. I don't see Justin Lane playing the slot. And now that I say that, he's probably going to send me an angry message again on Twitter. But nonetheless, I stand by my words, and I think that Pierre can fill that role. So there you go.
I cannot argue with that whatsoever. I love everything that Mr. Pierre brings to the table. A lot of people are thinking that he is going to be something special. Look, if you want to know what the Steelers think about this guy, notice that he was not on the practice squad at all last season because they hid him. They hid him on the roster. They started using him towards the end, but they were not going to dangle him because they knew that he would be gone and they would lose him. So they didn't take the risk. That's how special that they think this guy is. So I like it.
All right. Do you have one more?
Yeah, I have one more. And I was going to go with a rookie, or I was going to go with a veteran here. Same position. I'm going to go with the rookie. But I'm going to throw in this guy. I don't know if you have him, so I'm not going to say him. But you're going to know who he is when I say the other guy. So let's go with a rookie here. And it's Q from the U. Quincy Roche. I love Cassius Marsh. I'm one of the few guys that loves Marsh. I really think that he is going to do some things in depth next year. But when I think of these two guys, I think of the guy that could be a starter in this league. And I still think it's unbelievable that he lasted till the 6th round. And it's Quincy Roche. Look at some of the guys that were ahead of him at Miami. You know, I know he was listed as a defensive end, but Gregory Rousseau was a rusher, a pass rusher. He did some great things for them to get drafted very close to the top of the draft. I'm laughing because I'm 0 for 30 tonight, according to somebody in the live chat. And when you rip on me, I can't say your name. So that's my new thing. So I just came up with that 20 seconds ago.
Nice.
But so when I'm talking about Quincy Roche, look at Jalen Phillips, who I believe he went to Buffalo. No, he went to Miami. Excuse me. He went to Miami. Rousseau went to Buffalo. So those two guys were the big pass rushers for the Miami Hurricanes last year. Then you have a guy that had 26 sacks at Temple. Then he goes to a high-profile program for one more year in the middle of a pandemic. I believe he had 4.5 sacks last year. But what he did at Temple is good enough for me to see that this guy is a complete steal. And they're not going to expect him to do anything next year because you've got T.J. Watt, who's going to need a breather. You have Mr. Highsmith, Alex Highsmith on the other side, who we expect to make that jump from 1 to 2. And he would have been on my list last year because even though he had 14 sacks, nobody believed in this guy because he didn't have a name. He has a name now, and you love him. But you cannot live on 2 edge rushers alone. I think Quincy Roche is in a position where he doesn't have to be that next man up. Cassius Marsh is going to have probably that spot as the number 3 outside linebacker, and Quincy Roche is going to have an opportunity to move in and make his hay when he gets the opportunities. He doesn't have to do it all in one fell swoop. But if something happens, somebody gets hurt, or he's in a position that he has to start, or he comes in and sub packages, guess what? I think he's going to make you known. He's not going to be shut out in sacks. People are going to know his name. It's Q from the U. And I take that from, I know if Dave Schofield was here, you know what he'd say. I came up with that nickname because he has to call it. He has to call all his stats and all his nicknames if you bring it up. But there you go. I love you, Dave.
Well, I'm going to say this about whether you're talking about Cassius Marsh or you're talking about the Q from the U, Quincy Roche. All you have to do is be better than Anthony Chickalo. If you can do that, then what that means is that you stand there like you're going to rush the passer. When the ball snapped, you end up playing patty cake with the person in front of you and do nothing. If you can be more than that, more of a threat, look at Alex Highsmith last year before Bud Dupree got hurt. I think that was a perfect example. You don't need to be a world beater, so to speak, at that position. You just need to be effective. You just need to be a guy that can still get the job done.
You made a great point, so I want to jump on that real quick.
Sure.
Last year, going into the season, who was number 3 in a lot of people's minds? It wasn't Alex Highsmith.
No.
It was Ola.
Oh, that's right. Ola Adenia. You're right. Yeah, I forgot about him.
And Alex Highsmith leapt over him.
Yeah.
So, with the Pokemon King here, Quincy Roche could leap over him too. I still think Pokemon's going to do something to justify his spot on the team.
Well, I saw I wrote an article because Michael Beck shared a podcast that he did with Ross Tucker.
Yeah,
I watched it, and I was very impressed with El Pokemon King. And Abe, I kind of was like, man, this guy's a card guy, but he also likes sports cards too. So now all of a sudden, he's not talking about nerdy stuff. I'm interested now. I have cards. I still have a lot of playing cards. Really, I mean, like the Pokemon stuff, it's just a different type of card. We're all nerds in our own way for that type of stuff. But, he talked about how that's a good side hustle for him. And I was like, shoot, I need to look up some of my old playing cards and see if they're worth anything. I think I have the 1993, the complete NFL set of Upper Deck. I'm talking still in the original box. Those things are mint condition. I think Warren Sapp's rookie year, maybe. I don't know. Anyways, I'm going to get to my last one here. And I say he's a sleeper, not because no one's talking about him, because everyone, at least my ride or die crew, they love this guy. Because I love this guy. Everyone loves this guy. Big Presley Harvin III, the punter. That's right. The 260 pounds, squat 600 pounds. Can he finally kick the weasel, Jordan Berry, out of tan and have him never return? That's the question. Can he do it? I hope so. And if he does, the reason why he's a sleeper is that Steeler fans will finally, hopefully, get to see what an actual punter can do for your team. We have yet to see that. We'll see a huge booming kick from Jordan Berry, 62 yards. Wow, that's awesome. The next one shanks it for 20. What the heck? And really, when I said all that the pass rush has to do is be better than Anthony Chickalo, all that Presley Harvin would have to be is more consistent than Jordan Berry. I don't need it from a rookie punter, him to boom 65-yard punts on the regular. If he can, that's fantastic. I'm not going to complain. I need him to just be more competitive or more consistent down, getting punts inside the 20, getting good hang time, allowing your return team to get down there and make a play. I think Presley Harvin, they spent a draft pick on him. People will make a big deal out of that. It was a 2nd, 7th round pick. I'm not going to make a huge deal out of that. He has every opportunity to win this job. And I think, like I said, he's a sleeper for me because if he actually makes the team and gets that Weasel boy out of town, then he will absolutely give a fans an idea of what it's like to actually have a legitimate punter. And someone calls him Thick Kick. I think that's hysterical. Thick Kick.
Nobody likes my name for him. And I think my name is perfect. Elvis. Think of it. His name's Presley.
Yeah, no, I get it.
He's huge. He's huge. He's
Elvis wasn't always huge, though.
Yeah, but the Elvis that you think of is
not true. Not true. Don't talk about me. But I think about Elvis. I think about the young Elvis.
I want Elvis busting out of the seams, singing "My Way" on a 1977 special.
Hold on, Cree's telling me some information. Cree must have his Beckett magazine out. He's looking up. He's looking up how much my cards are worth. Cree, 1993 NFL set upper deck, not tops, upper deck. Let me know how much they're worth. There you go.
And while you're at it, let me know.
They are for sale. They are for sale.
I've got a Bradshaw rookie, so.
Is it well now that type of stuff? Because I learned about Cassius Marsh from he said, "What the heck was that? Is everyone okay?"
Yeah, I knocked something over on my desk.
It's a dead body. Don't worry about it. But if you have like those rookies,
go check the trunk.
Oh my gosh. Okay. He was talking about how with these cards, you have to get them like the Beckett now. You can get them verified basically to prove that they are, mint condition or they have different levels of condition. Like I have a Mario Lemieux autograph card that's in one of those old. Do you remember the playing card cases that were screwed together?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have one of those. Like it's never even left that case. I got it. I put it in a plastic sleeve, then put it in there. And that thing is like Fort Knox. I don't know how much it's worth, but I have it.
Most of my stuff, I don't care what they're worth, actually.
Well, I mean, at this point, what am I going to do with them?
Yeah, I mean, I just like the fact that, I'm going to hold on to it.
Cards are making a comeback. My gosh, a Tom Brady rookie card just sold for like a couple $1 million. Upper Deck's 25. Create that. You just disappointed me. Creed just told me my cards are worth $25. That's still $25. I'd have to look in there and see if there's any good like rookie cards or something that would be maybe more than $25 individually. Jeff has homework. Okay. Do you have trivia? I actually have a trivia question.
You know what? I'm going to defer to you because I'm not coming up with anything that great.
When the dunce becomes the teacher. All right, here we go. Here's a question. You probably will get this. In 1933, when Arthur Rooney bought the Steelers, do you know how much he bought the team for? The actual dollar amount. For some reason, I always have $2,500 in my head. $2,500. Is that what your guess? Yeah, it can't be $2,500 or $25,000. Let's say $2,500. I don't know. So this is 1933 now. So you're saying that $2,500? Yes. That is correct. $2,500 is how much Arthur Rooney bought the Pittsburgh Steelers for in 1933. Follow-up question. How much are the Steelers worth in 2021? Woo-hoo-hoo. My gosh, I have no idea. Well, guess. Look, I'm going to be way off. 100 million. $3 billion. Okay, see, I'm way off. Think about that. Now, granted, in 33, 2,500, that was a lot of money. That was a lot of money. And now $3 billion, and that is a 58% increase, this $3 billion number, in the last 5 years. They have increased their overall net worth by 58%. Because I remember it was just a few years ago, they were valued at just over $1 billion. It was the Dallas Cowboys. I want to say Washington was up there as well in terms of total, how much they're worth. $3 billion now the Pittsburgh Steelers are worth. That's crazy. Now, I don't know if that'll go down considering how much the pandemic's going to impact overall revenue, but as of the latest Forbes results show $3 billion. How about that? What an investment. What an investment. Yeah, 25. Yeah, see your 2,500. I'll raise you $3 billion. Yeah. That's insane. Okay, that's my trivia. You know what? I actually have a trivia question for you, and it's a cheesy one, but let's have some fun with it. All right. So I'm going to give you the Pittsburgh Steelers draft picks, guys that you've never heard of, but maybe you have. So they have famous namesakes. I'm going to give you a famous playwright, a president, and a famous bilingual singer, pop star. That they were all drafted. They weren't their names. William Shakespeare. Yep, I forgot. That was the first pick ever, right? Wasn't that their first draft pick? Yep. A president. President's namesake. 1980. That's not going to help you, but no, it's not. I was -3. Richard Nixon. I don't know. Well, who's the president? Woodrow Wilson. They had a Woodrow Wilson. He didn't make the team, but they drafted a Woodrow Wilson. And a bilingual singer. Yep, 1985. Shakira? No, I'm just that's not bad. You're in the same arena. Jennifer Lopez. I don't know. Who is it?
Living La Vida Loca. Ricky Martin.
Ricky Martin.
They drafted a Ricky Martin.
Why do I only think of female singers when you said bilingual? I don't know. All right. That was fine. That was good.
I was waiting for you to say Julio Iglesias.
Hey, 1 out of 3 is not bad. That gets me in the Hall of Fame in baseball. All right. Let's do final thoughts. Go ahead, Bryan.
All right. This is a somber final thought. When I think of the news that came out today, and we've known about this news for a while, but when I hear that after all these years in broadcasting and being a part of the Steeler family since 1980, to hear that Tunch Ilkin is retiring because of dealing with ALS, I think I just feel really sad. And the reason I feel really sad about it is because Tunch has been a part of our soundtrack for a long time. I could hear Tunch say, pack your bags, call your travel agents, we're going to Denver. And then saying, scratch that.
Cancel the trip.
Yeah. Everything about Tunch, just class guy. He could have been a coach in this league. He loved what he was doing as far as broadcasting. He put his heart and his soul and his family. He put everything, his faith, he put it out there. And you wanted to be a part of his family. Every time Tunch spoke, you felt like you were getting the truth because you were. He was I'm saying, no, let me stop that. I'm saying he is the genuine article. And as a Steeler broadcaster, I'm going to miss the heck out of this guy. I remember a very fun story that my buddy used to tell me, because my buddy used to work for ESPN radio at the time. And Tunch would get really annoyed because Bill Hillgrove and Myron Cope, they'd be half lit by halftime. and then here's Tunch was like, guys, will you stop that? But Tunch was is the consummate professional, and I'm going to miss him on the microphone, in the locker room. Everything about the man, number 62. We love you. Fight.
Absolutely. And I was going to bring up Tunch as well. I'm glad you did. Tunch and Wolf were legendary. I still remember listening to those radio shows and his spots on radio shows like Stan Savran on sports. And when I was a kid, listening to Stan, the godfather of Pittsburgh radio. And, Jerry Cherry Band, who does all our music, he said in the live chat, and I've heard this from other people. I didn't listen to any radio broadcasts this past season. He said that he had to listen to lots of them last year. And he said he was struggling a little bit. And sadly, and I know that, I know Russ in the live chat at Openstein, he has a personal connection with ALS, as do I. It was 6 years ago that I lost probably one of my best friends to the disease. And I kind of went on a Twitter thread today. If you want to check it out, you can. Give you the synopsis of it is that Tunch is doing the right thing. And he needs to try and live his life as best as he can while he can. Because, Bryan, you said it, and it's a kind of our empathy kicking in. It's our human nature to say, fight. We're going to fight. You can't fight this thing. Yeah. And it's definitely something that it's one of those. Everyone loves those videos, cancer free, ringing the bell, leaving the hospital, going to battle this chemo. We're going to beat this cancer. You don't win this battle. And so the best thing that you can do is to just live your life to the best that you can while you can. And my best friend was a Pittsburgh fan. He liked the Penguins and the Steelers. He was a Yankee fan. And so I took him in a car. We drove up to Pittsburgh 2 times in 3 weeks. We saw them play the Bengals on Sunday Night Football. He was in a wheelchair at the time. And it was freezing cold. That was the game where Terrence Garvin broke the punter's jaw. Antonio Brown's punt return for a touchdown. It's a great game. It's freezing, but it was great. Then 2 weeks later, took him up to see a Penguins game at PPG Paints. It was a Console Energy at the time. They beat the Minnesota Wild 7-4. Matt Cook's first game back to Pittsburgh after he left. Ole Mata scored on a penalty shot. Go figure. And it was just a great time. Kudos, by the way. I said this on my Let's Ride because I talked about it at the end. Kudos to the Steelers and the Penguins for being unbelievably accommodating on both of those trips for my friend who, when we bought the tickets, was still walking, and when we went, he was in a wheelchair. And so we had to kind of change it up, and they were like, no, that's fine. We got to go through the suites at Heinz Field, like where, the Brunies and stuff sit and the players' families. And we were walking through those hallways to get to our seats. Just tremendous stuff. But Tunch Ilkin did the right thing by stepping down. There's really no reason. He's done enough for him to stick around and continue to do it, especially if it's visibly starting to wear on him. He needs to go live his life. He needs to go travel if he wants to travel. He needs to just spend time with family, because it's going to happen fast, and you hope that it's slow progressing. That's the best thing you can hope for. I know that sounds awful, but anyone that's ever been around someone that has suffered from ALS, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So I'm praying for Tunch Ilkin, praying for not only him, but his family and his friends and his loved ones. It affects everyone. It affects everyone. So not to be a complete downer to finish out the show, but Tunch Ilkin is definitely going to be in our thoughts and prayers for sure. It's tough. Very difficult. Very difficult. So Bryan, anything to add before we call it a show?
No. Nope. That's well said, Jeff.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, everyone. Dave's not here, so he's not here to do the hey. I'm not going to do it. That's his thing. In the meantime, we'll be back next week for another episode of the Steelers Preview. Take it easy. Make sure you check out BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. Should be a one-stop shop for all things Pittsburgh Steelers. Wherever you get your podcast, search Steelers or Behind the Steel Curtain. Subscribe, follow, so you don't miss a thing. Have a great weekend, everyone. We'll see you next week. See ya.